Today I am with Dr.MS Reddy, Senior Consulting Psychiatrist at Asha Hospital. We are dwelling into the subject of OCD. Hi doctor, how are you? Good. Let's go quick into the subject of OCD. Doctor, what is OCD? Is it a disorder or disease?
First of all, OCD means Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. This is a kind of a disorder. Let us not go into that whether it is a disease or something, because some pathological basis has to be there and then pathological proof and all things. It's a disorder. It's one of the psychiatric disorders. If I can tell you now, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, I don't know whether I can call it, it's a fascinating kind of a psychiatric disorder, because the kind of symptoms and manifestations are so varied. It's almost like, you have about 100 to 200 varieties of different kind of symptoms, which is now sometimes mind-boggling. At this point, before I go into the details, let me also tell you, with whatever experience I have, OCD is the most troublesome, most disturbing disorder to the patient. Sometimes we may all see that psychosis is very severe. I know that psychosis is a major psychiatric disorder. OCD comes more under relatively minor disorders, but the difference here is, in OCD, patient clearly knows that he is going to do this. The paradox is, patient knows that he should not be thinking like that, he should not be doing that, there is no need to do that, there is no necessity to do that, it's illogical, it is sometimes foolish, stupid, people laugh at me, people make fun of me doing this. No, after knowing all those things, that's one of the biggest problems in that. Now going to the definition of it, as you said, obsession, I think even in the common language also we keep talking about, like we say that he's obsessed with this project, he's obsessed with this girl, he's obsessed with this particular kind of, we keep talking, the same thing.
What are the various types of obsessions and compulsions, doctor?
Different types. Before that, let's go into what's the definition. When you call something an obsession, we all get thoughts. Obsession is what we call is for the thought. The same thing what we call for the act is compulsion. A thought is obsession, a doing what we do is a compulsion. Definition wise, a repetitive, that's the most important thing. It has to repeat itself. A thought has to come again and again and again and again and again and again. It's like I get tired of, the same thoughts keeps coming back and back again and again. That is the crucial thing about obsession. And this thought is intrusive. The person does not want this thought. The person tries to keep himself away from the thought. He tries to block it. It's intrusion. It comes forcefully into the mind. So repetitive, intrusive, which patient knows that he should not be, but he cannot stop it, which is disturbing to the patient. It's my own thought, but I don't want it. But it happens. Then the question is, doctor, this is very common, let's say an example of, I fail in the exam. I feel worried. Why did I fail? It's normal, everybody gets that. Why did I fail? Why did I do this? But the difference is why did I fail? Why did I do this? This thought comes just a few times. But here in obsession, you don't believe it, the number of, it's like hundreds of times they get the thought. So a repetitive thought which comes to the patient again and again and again and again, which is forcefully comes into his mind, which he tries to block but cannot block it, and produces lots of anxiety. We'll go into the different types of. To tell you an example, my hands are dirty. Actually they are not. I know that they are not dirty, but my hands are dirty. Did I lock the door? I was going out of the house. I locked the door. But did I lock the door? I know that I locked the door. But the thought comes, I think maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't put it right. I didn't put it. This is a thought which keeps bothering me. I think maybe I didn't lock. Maybe I didn't lock. Maybe I didn't lock. This is a kind of a disturbing thought. So the compulsion is almost a similar thing to that, but an act. I just now told. My hands are dirty. That's a thought. So I go and wash. Act. A repetitive act, which I do it again and again and again. I go and wash my hands. Wash my hands 2 times, 3 times, all of us wash. But here it goes into tens and tens and tens of times, hundreds of times. I go and check the door. I told you that. Now, like whether I have a doubt where, now I go, do it again, again open the lock, and I do it a number of times, which is distressing. That is what is compulsion. Obsession is a thought, compulsion is an act. Both the common thing is it comes again and again, repetitive, and forcefully it comes into that. The most important thing here is that the person knows that this is silly, this is ridiculous, this is foolish, these people think that I am crazy if I do that, but he cannot stop it. That is what the gist of OCD is. So repetitive, intrusive, which patient knows that he should not be, but he cannot stop it.
Doctor, what are the types of OCDs?
Yes, yeah. More than the types of OCD, that's only OCD is generally one. The different types, usually we don't talk about different types, but now like generally OCD is a fairly continuous illness. Another problem here is that OCD, it usually starts around the age of 10 years. Imagine a 10-year-old child, 10 to 11, 12 years. A child getting this kind of a thoughts, they get into bewildered, like they just don't know why I'm getting these thoughts. Just 2 days back, I had one person, brought the son. He's a 11-year-old boy. Suddenly, the last few days, he started asking questions. What happens after death? Why should my grandfather die? If my grandfather dies, who is there for me to take care of it? And then why this is happening that? All these kind of things which you don't expect from an 11-year-old child. It's a kind of a philosophical, and then he's going to that. He's worried that if my grandfather dies and if he's not there, then who is going to be there, and then how do I prevent this? This is a kind of a thought process which comes. Usually it starts around that time. And if you look at broadly different symptoms, second thing is doubts. Doubts about I'll come to it later. Doubts about 101 things. Check and check and check. Then is that sudden impulse, sudden thought comes. So I'll give you an example of the thought. There's a pen here, there's a sharp object here. The thought is that with this sharp knife, I may stab my child. You're in the kitchen, you have a knife there, and the impulse, that's what impulse, I may, that's very aggressive. They don't behave aggressively, but the kind of a thought. And then some of the negative thoughts. Sometimes the thoughts are religious based, which we call it as a blasphemy. Really very disturbing thoughts. I'll describe it later. So you have contamination, you have checking and doubts, you have aggressive impulses, and you have the sexual thoughts, and you have some religious thoughts which are mixed in this. And this is the kind of, and the presentations are umpteen. So repetitive, intrusive, which patient knows that he should not be, but he cannot stop it.
Doctor, what is the link between obsession and compulsion?
See, I think this is a beautiful part of it. Most of the times, the obsessions and compulsions are linked. It's like, I'll take an example. I have an obsessive thought that my door is, I have not locked the door correctly. So this is a thought. This thought keeps bothering me again and again. Did you lock the door? Door may not have been locked. Door might not have been locked. Oh God, if the door is not locked, and then if I go out, somebody will break into the house and then they'll rob everything and then they'll go. So I am responsible for this, what the fault of it. If I didn't put off the stove perfectly and completely close the gas stove, it may catch fire, and then my God, family, the whole thing is going to happen. So this kind of a thought, if I didn't do it correctly, I am responsible for the fire accident, I am responsible for the robbery. That is the thought. Now the compulsion link is that because I have a doubt that I didn't lock it correctly, I come back and then do the act of it 10 times. I check the lock, make it perfect, make it again and again, see that it's locked, go to the gas stove and then turn up the knob. You hear the tuck sound when you completely turn. You do it. So the thought is, maybe I didn't put off the stove, there may be a fire accident, something happens. The act is to control that anxiety, I go and do this times. So a lot of times compulsion is to control the anxiety which comes from the obsession. I do this compulsive act, so that anxiety gets relieved. But the problem sometimes, the compulsion itself creates an anxiety. I'll give an example. To control the thought that maybe I did not put off the stove, anxiety, I commended putting off the stove as a compulsion to control the anxiety. But now another thing starts. Did I really put it off correctly? Even this compulsion. So I have to call my wife or my son saying that, look at it. Did I do it? You have to take that reassurance from them. You have to ask them, see that there. Did I do it? Have I done it correctly? Is it So every time, unless they say that yes you have done, I cannot stop it. So this gets a problem to the relatives also. So this is a link between obsession and compulsions. That is where it comes to.
Thank you, MS Reddy.
Thanks, Sandy. It's so nice. Thank you so much. Thanks. It's a good time.
Hi friends, please give your valuable feedback and comments on our program Shades of Moods.